Believe it or not, I am the author of MouseJunkies. And I say believe it or not because I feel like as a writer I should be wearing a tweed jacket and smoking a pipe. But I was between that and a Disney t-shirt. And I'm first and foremost a Disney guy, so the Disney t-shirt won. And besides, my wife Amy made me. And with me here right now is Randy Rule and Deb Cody. They are in the book all the way through. They offer, well, the book is, it's a travel book about Disney, but it's not a list of steps about how to go about maximizing your time there. It's more tips told through anecdotes and stories and narrative. And Randy and Deb and a few other people are included all the way through. So we have a couple of experts here, and there's a couple more coming. They were at a golf tournament, but they ran a little late, but they'll be here in a couple minutes. And so we've got the introductions out of the way. I've only spoken in public a couple times, so I'm going to try to slow down. So please forgive me if I speak too quickly here. My voice shakes. But I'll start by telling you a little bit about myself, just briefly. I worked in newspapers for 18 years, and most of the time at the Boston Herald, and I did some travel writing when I was there. And what happened was, how it all ties together is, my boss at the time, and some of you may have read it in the book, suggested I take a vacation. So in a roundabout way, we came to the conclusion that we go to Walt Disney World. I didn't really know what to expect. I'd been when I was young, and I remember enjoying it, but not to the extent that I do now. So, which I can tell a lot of people here have been to Disney World. I'm sure you relate. So we went, and this is covered in the first chapter. And again, some of you may have heard the story, but when we originally went, we went through a travel agent. And she sort of steered us to stay off-site. And she made a lot of promises about what was there and what was available. And when we arrived, the hotel was not at all as it was described, and it was kind of a disaster. And within, I don't know, within 45 minutes, we upgraded to All-Star Music, which is a value resort in Disney property. That was an upgrade from where we were, but it was great. And a few minutes later, on our way to the parks, and as I stood in one of the more nondescript sections of the park, that's where it hit me. That was my lightning bolt moment. I was standing in the hallway to the timekeeper attraction, which isn't even there anymore. It's not particularly special in any way, but that's where it hit me. Something was being pumped into the air conditioning. It just, all of a sudden, I was in love with the place. And from that moment on, it cost me a lot of money and a lot of time, but it's been a lot of fun. And it it resulted in the book, MouseJunkies. So what happened was, I came back from that vacation, and I experienced Disney withdrawal, which, you're smiling, you know. All of a sudden, I felt like I was obsessed with the place. I needed to go back as quickly as possible. And as a journalist at the time, the best way to deal with that for me was to just start writing. So I started writing trip reports, which again, I know a lot of people do. And as the trips piled up, so did the trip reports. And my wife Amy was reading them one day, and she said, "These are really funny, you should write a book." And I said, "You have to be nice to me. Thank you, but you're married to me and you have to say nice things." And then a couple years later, I was on a press trip. I think it was Year of a Million Dreams, as they were launching that. And the PR person that was assigned to me said, she saw what I was sending back to the newspaper. She said, "This is pretty funny. You should write a book." And I said, "You're my PR contact. You have to say nice things to me." Thank you. Well, again, a few years later, I found myself out of work. I had left to work for a magazine company, and they had a layoff. And I also read a column for a magazine called Parenting New Hampshire. And my mother-in-law, right here, said, "These are really funny. You should write a book." And I said, "You don't have to say anything nice to me." So I decided to listen. I had nothing to lose, so I just started collecting all the trip reports and trying to figure out what could I do with this. It didn't have an angle, it didn't have a focus, and I knew without any type of outline, it wouldn't do me any good. So I thought about it. Hey, Jay. This is MouseJunkie Jay. Sorry, I'm like So one morning we were waking up and the clock radio was on, and the person on the radio repeated something 3 times. And for some reason that clicked in my head. I knew I wanted to call the book MouseJunkies, and the person would come up, I'm pointing to everybody in the crowd, but the person would come up with that title is the guy back there with the dark blue shirt on. So, he gave us all a name. It's his fault. So I thought, the person repeated something 3 times, and I thought, MouseJunkies travel, MouseJunkies eat, MouseJunkies sleep, and it just clicked. So I ran downstairs, and I just started typing as fast as I could. And before my wife came down the stairs to go to work, I had an outline done. And it's changed very little. That's really the table of contents that's in the book today. And that's why, if you look at the table of contents, it kind of looks like an outline. And then I just started writing, and before, I had about 80,000 words written from the trip reports. And right away I realized that I had to throw everything out and start again, because it's just, then we did this, then we went to this park, then we ate here. There wasn't a lot to it, so I just had to start from scratch. And I had nothing but time, so every morning I would drive my daughter to kindergarten, come back, I put on our Live 365 channel. Randy runs one with all Disney music. So I put that on, and I start typing, and everything around me would disappear. It was like and it was great. It was like being on vacation every day. And so I used my training from being a reporter, and I just sort of filled in the blanks in the outline. And before too long, I had about 75% of it written, and I knew I had to write about a publisher. So what I did is I put together a proposal package, and I just Googled publishers. It was a really simple, approach. And I was looking for publishers that published travel books or humor books, and I found Traveler's Tales, which publishes humorous travel books. So I knew I found a pretty good fit. So I emailed them the proposal, and about 2 hours later I heard back, and they were interested, which goes against all odds. I don't ever expect that to happen again. But to make, not even that long of a story, to make a span of a few weeks, into a short story, they were interested, they wanted to see more. One day I got a phone call from the acquisitions editor, and he said, we would like to do this, can we send you a contract? So as I tell that part of the story, I realize I've been trying to think of a way that's not really corny to say, that's a dream come true, but there's no other way to put it. I always wanted to write a book. It involved my favorite thing outside of writing in Walt Disney World together, and it really was a dream come true. And I try to tell the story in a linear fashion, but it never works out that way. So I'm going to back up a little bit. When I did write the book, I didn't write it alone. Every day, I didn't have a job, so I had the freedom to just think about Disney all day, which is great. But when I did that, I realized I had a lot of friends who were into Disney as much as we are and went more than we do. We try to go a couple times a year. We've been around, when I say we, I mean me, my wife, and my daughter, which I have no idea who she is. We've been together about 20 times total. I know to some people that's not very many. For example, Randy, can you tell everybody how many times you've been?
60 times since the last time.
Since the Sandown event? Yeah. Now it's 60. And Jay and Deb are husband and wife. How many times have you guys been?
About 20 times.
25 times. So they're winning. They're ahead of me. Nobody's going to catch Randy. Nobody in my group anyway. Has anybody been more than 60 or really? How many times?
Over 100.
Okay, he wins.